3, 2, 1. That's probably pretty good. Hey, greasy forehead, back at it again. It's time for another episode where Nolan bitches and complains about stupid shit and stupid people. And today we wash all the misery down. With some sparkling sake. How come every time I fucking drink this goddamn fucking sake, I fucking spill it? God damn it. 1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes. Ah! Two potatoes, 3 potatoes, 4 potatoes. Your potato house. Look, I wanted to show you guys. I've made an improvement to the tripod design.
1 potato, 2 potatoes, 3 potatoes, 4.
So some of you might be wondering what the fuck this fucking garbage is here in my hand. Well, you got it right. It's garbage. I want to talk about something that I've seen come up. Okay, we're in a different culture, so all the stupid garbage, it's 2018 kind of people aren't necessarily the same. It's not the same 2018 here as it is, you know, in America. So it's a different 2018 in America than it's here in Japan. So that doesn't stop sensitive people from being the worst goddamn people on this fucking planet. Now take it from me, I'm not someone who really honestly cares too much about the implications of words and their meaning. Quite clearly, I understand that there is context behind every word that is spoken. Simply saying a foul word does not simply make you racist, bigoted, or sexist. It just means you've used the joke in a funny ha-ha manner, or whatever the case may be. We have offensive words. We have a whole list of them. Take it away, Mr. Carlin. Is that his name, Carlin? I don't remember.
There's a different group to get pissed off at you in this country for everything you're not supposed to say. Can't say fruit, can't say faggot, can't say queer, can't say Nancy boy, can't say pansy. Can't say nigger, boogie, jig, jigaboo, skinhead, jungle bunny, mooly, moulignon, or schwarzer. There is absolutely nothing wrong with any of those words in and of themselves. They're only words. It's the context that counts. It's the user. It's the intention behind the words that makes them good or bad. The words are completely neutral. The words are innocent. I get tired of people talking about bad words and bad language. Bullshit. It's the context that makes them good or bad.
So obviously we have offensive words, but there's a whole new layer when it comes to just being sensitive, not caring to understand the context, understanding that it is a misunderstanding, but deciding to continue to leave it as a misunderstanding rather than clarifying what the fuck the problem is, where the misunderstanding happened, and just going about your day offended. I don't have sympathy for these people. I can be a nice person. I can. I'm not the person that I portray on YouTube. Blech. The person I portray on YouTube, well, yeah, at least as of recently, is a drunk fucking bastard. And believe it or not, I'm not drunk 24/7. In fact, honestly, to fucking break the illusion here for you guys, the only time that I'm ever fucking drunk is when I make these videos. I almost never actually drink, ever.
Buddy! Daisy!
It's time for a little bit of a history lesson about what the fuck it is that I'm holding here in my hand. A history lesson here, okay? So this is a project I've worked on for like 5 goddamn years now. I think it's been longer than that, to be honest. I stopped keeping count. So this was a fucking cover that I fucking designed myself because I'm not a fucking artist, okay? This was some quick fucking dirty Photoshop shit where I took I basically spent most of the time, obviously, on designing the logo, and then the rest of it was fairly simple. So you'll have to forgive the fact that it's all in black and white. But through the magic of editing, don't worry, I can put these fucking pictures on screen in full color. And if there's anything that I was fucking adamant about, it was the fucking style of the art that went into my fucking book. Now, the story of writing this book was that I started it because I was in a bit of an emotional place. Now, a long time ago when I was in middle school, I used to love writing. I used to love trying to write novels. None of them got finished. There's a stream somewhere in my archives. I'll fucking link it down below, where I actually was reading through one of the novels that I attempted to write when I was in middle school. But anyways, I used to love writing regardless of how garbage it was. And so there was a time while I was in Austin that, you know, I was jobless. I didn't have any friends. I was just, it's typical for most fucking millennials who can't find a job, who just fucking resort to whatever garbage they can get their hands on to try to fucking win the lottery at fucking finding success through some sort of creative outlet. And one of those things that I felt like was writing. Actually, that's not true. My writing is fucking horrendous. Either way, the one thing that it did provide me was that it provided me the opportunity to just escape from my fucking depression of being a goddamn millennial. And at the time when I started it, there was a large lack of sci-fi. There was a large lack of sci-fi that lacked any sort of sense of self-awareness. At that time, most of the sci-fi that was popular was very serious. And so I decided I wanted to fucking just let my fucking emotions out, while at the same time writing some sort of fucking sci-fi that was a little bit more self-aware of the fact that, holy shit, it's the goddamn future and we have fucking giant mechs. This is the fucking coolest shit ever. So without any sort of a plan, without any sort of an outline, without any sort of idea of what I was doing, I fucking just put my hands to the fucking keyboard and I just started writing. This is a stupid idea. Don't do this if you're planning to do any sort of writing in the future. Don't do it. Just before moving to Japan, I realized, oh shit, this book is hot garbage with no clear direction and a bunch of fucking loose ends that were just plot threads that never amounted to anything, because when I wrote them, I was like, well, maybe this will become relevant later. But I didn't really have any sort of idea of whether they would be relevant or not. I started rewriting the whole goddamn book, but this time with a much clearer goal. Literally, I wrote the book twice, because the first time I wrote the damn book, it was just a hot mess of fucking of just a bunch of ideas going everywhere. The main thing that I wanted about the story was for the story to always be at the front. And never did I want it to be pushed into the background for nonsensical garbage that is not important to the events that are happening. So, as a result, there is a very large lack of description inside of my book. And that is done with intention. When I was rewriting it, I intended this to supplement the lack of description with art inserts thrown throughout the book. In comes the artist.
Shit! Dean!
So rewind about 2 years ago, I found an artist through DeviantArt named Valentina. You can actually see that she has done some work doing anime-styled art through Steam visual novels that have been posted on Steam. I've linked one of them below. Honestly, as bitter as I feel towards her, I am not going to judge her own art, because it could be, or her own work, because it could actually be good despite the person behind it. Okay? We should all take note of that. No matter the person behind the work should be its own self, not defined by the person who made it. 2 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, Valentina joins the fray here as my artist to design the characters. Here's the deal. So, the whole project for this story When it comes to doing art, you can't just fucking... You can't just have a fucking cover and call it good. Especially when it comes from a book. We need to know who the fuck this fucking person is gonna be on the front. So, as a result, we need to design the characters first before we can even do any of the real art that's going to be contained within the book. So, Valentina decided that when I talked with her, obviously we need to do the character designs first, based off what little information and details were given throughout the book. Basically, there are some important aspects of costume design and character design that were important to the story that the story had given in descriptions. However, the rest of the design was fairly free form because I didn't ever describe these characters. So it was up to her to come up with the designs. So that way, after we have the designs of the characters, we can put them into practice by applying them to the cover of the book. I don't think I have the emails anymore, but what I do remember is I was fairly abrasive, but never towards her. I was more abrasive towards the anime community because, let's face it, the anime community is autistic, and I'm not telling lies is not an opinion, it's just fact. Either way, she was not very appreciative of my more abrasive opinion of the community that she was very a part of, and therefore, even though it was not a personal attack on her, it was an attack on the community that she was part of, and therefore found me intolerable to work with, and therefore also quit working with me before the project was finished. At this point, I was now out of an artist, and I was getting close to finishing the book. It was still fine. I was not finished with the book yet. I still had about half of it to go. Plus, there was still more to do, as I can show you right here, right next to the camera. I call this the red edit of the book. This was after I had written everything. I still needed to go through with red ink and find mistakes, grammar problems, and other things that just seemed weird or out of line with the story, and try to repair them. I still had time, so I decided I was gonna find someone that I was happier with. And now that I lived in Osaka, in Japan, I could find more legitimate anime art. Side tangent.
Everybody loves potatoes. Everybody loves.
So I decided that I was gonna spend the next while looking for an artist here in Japan, since I think Japanese artists know exactly how to get the anime art exactly right. They'll get all the nuance right. And eventually, through one of my coworkers, I found out that their sister was actually a published mangaka. Not a famous one, mind you, is published independently. Thanks through my coworker and her sister, I found a new artist named Natsuka. And Natsuka helped me come up with all of the character designs, as you see here. And we got through most of the preliminary part of the project. At this point in time, by the time we finished all of the projects, the red edit had not only been finished, but also the edits that had been applied in the red edit had been applied to the actual document itself. Now, here's the deal. After getting all 5 character designs finished. These are just the primary story characters of the book. There are obviously other side characters. The next step in the project was for her to actually replace this fucking shitty fucking cover design that I did. And we had gotten started on the project, however, and when we finished the character designs, that was back before the beginning of May. Just the timeline for you. Back before the beginning of May. However, she also had her own art project that she had been working on, that she had mostly put to the side to work on my project because, well, guess what? I was paying her to do my project. However, because, like I said, I'm not the fucking cynical asshole that you see here on this fucking YouTube channel, I am actually a fairly nice guy, and so I told her that she can take the month of May to focus on her own project rather than my project, because she had spent the past few months focusing on my project. So, come June, we now begin work on the cover, applying all the character designs to make the cover that I wanted. Now, the cover is not the final part of this project. It's fine. I'm a little bit more drunk than I thought. Now it comes back to the beginning of this long fucking history here about this book. Before I even started talking about the history, I talked about sensitive people. Now, Valentina Jong was her own situation. Obviously, I insulted the community that she was part of and therefore did not appreciate my comments towards it. On the other hand, we have Natsuka. Natsuka was offended when I asked that the character displayed here, named Filth, needed an adjustment to his character design for the cover. However, unfortunately, because I'm a retard, I completely forgot to mention that Filth has a very important gun that must be present on his character. It needed to be designed prior to finishing the art. So, when describing the design of the gun, I used the word phallic. If you look at this character design, I do think it appropriately speaks that this guy is basically a fucking cocky ass character. And so I don't think it is inappropriate or out of line to say that his gun is very phallic or representative of his massive fucking ego. However, Natsuka being Japanese and not being 100% familiar with English language, was not familiar with the word phallic. Her sister, who is much better at English, had been translating. However, she also did not know the word phallic. So, Natsuka herself decided to ask me, what does phallic mean? Knowing that at least in America the word phallic is not an offensive word. It is not part of the George Carlin fucking list of bad fucking words to say. It is actually fairly tame and mundane and is not problematic, as the feminists would say. And therefore, the use of the word phallic did not occur to me that it may be offensive, and therefore, when I tried to explain it, I had to explain it in very simple and basic terms for the Japanese to understand, because again, English is not their primary language. So I put in a very simple one-sentence descriptor as a representative of his penis. And then Natsuka doesn't talk to me for a month. I message her day after day, and I say, hey, is everything okay? Where's the art? I'm wondering what happened. You promised me that you'd have this finished before the end of the month, then it's way past the end of the month. And then finally, her sister contacts me, and her sister says, Natsuka feels like you have sexually harassed her. I don't want to go into too much detail. Again, links in the description. I talked about this on one of my streams. I already gave it in full description. But either way, she found my use of the word penis very offensive and considered it sexual harassment. So because she was so deeply offended, actually she said that she would still continue working for me. However, she didn't really want to talk anymore about the design. She just wanted to do the work. I decided that I was going to give her a month to get over herself, because clearly she was deeply offended by this. So fine, whatever. You take a month to yourself, you get over this garbage, and we move on and we continue with the project. So the month ended. This month, August. I hadn't received any sort of word from her. I told her that she needed to finish it within those 19 days, the cover. And I didn't get a reply from her ever throughout that month. So she didn't want to talk to me. She was deeply offended. She didn't even want to take the time to understand the cultural connotation behind the word phallic. Instead, she just wanted to be offended by it. Ultimately, I decided I'm going to let you go. I'm done. It's not like I said, hey girl, I'm gonna shove my phallus deep inside your fucking gash. That could be considered sexual harassment. As I said, I did not direct my sexual language towards her or towards anyone that she knew. It was towards the art, and it was more in a metaphoric sense than anything else.
Everybody loves potato pals.
I'm back in the same position again as when Valentina decided she no longer wanted to work for me. However, the difference between then and now is that now I have a finished product. And at this point, the book is done. All I need is art. No matter how hard I try, I will never have a cover art. I will never have a cover art that I am satisfied with. There is no replacement for an actual artist. And I have tried twice now. And both times, both artists were sensitive. So sensitive that they decided they're gonna forego their own payment for their own artwork. Simply because they do not want to have to deal with me. The fact that both of these artists were so sensitive is almost offensive to me. It feels like both of these artists were so sheltered that they have never once experienced any sort of real problem in their life to realize how insignificant a joke is. It's always been about the action. What are the actions that the artist takes place? And here's the deal. Both of my artists always requested a certain level of pay. And guess what? I paid them more. And even still, despite paying both of these artists extra, giving Natsuka extra time to focus on her own personal project, which doesn't really pay her anyways, what they find offensive is not the action that I take. What they find offensive is the words that I use. So at this point, I'm at a strange point where I don't really want to work with another person because I'm so fed up with working with people. I'm so fed up with dealing with people for projects. I would love to get this printed. I would love to have this published. I would love to have people be able to read this. But honestly, no one cares. No one cares. And that goes back to the beginning of this book. I started writing it because I was sad. I started writing it because I had this void inside of me. I didn't write it for you. I didn't write it for anyone else. I started writing it because this is what I wanted to do for myself. And I would love to have people be able to read it. I've poured so much of myself inside of it. It's been at least 5 years since I began this book. Possibly longer. Alright, so I ran out of memory on my phone. So we've had two problems come up. I ran out of memory and I ran out of temperature. So anyways, I just left my phone in the freezer for a little while after transferring all the files off the phone, because I've loved what I was doing with my book, and it was entirely for myself. This may change in the future. I've already started thinking about new ways of trying to get this published, so it may change quickly, but at this time, the book was started as something just for myself, and that's where I want to leave it. A long time ago, I wanted to actually do a Kickstarter for the book. The thing was back then when I wanted to do that, the book wasn't finished, and so it was much more difficult to think of reward tiers for it. But now the book is finished, and I was thinking about that again, And maybe now it might be a bit more appropriate going forward with the books. Now here's the deal. I'm not ignorant of the fact of the challenges of Kickstarter. We see a lot of Kickstarters that are immensely successful, outstandingly successful. But believe it or not, even though despite the amount of press these Kickstarters get, these are still just like lightning in the bottle, okay? Right? This is not common, and especially when it comes to books. I've done plenty of research on this, and not only are the odds against me to begin with when it comes to crowdfunding, but the odds are stacked even higher when it comes to crowdfunding a book. So I don't know what to do going forward. But like I said, I think I'm happy with it is as it is. I've looked into companies that actually do single print books, mostly what you might call like similar to like prototyping, I guess you would say. So their idea is that hopefully after you print the one copy and you see it, you might actually order a bunch more. So I guess it's sort of abusive to actually just use this to print a single copy for myself. Don't get me wrong, it's still exorbitantly expensive for a single book, but I've considered just doing that using my little mocked up cover here, and probably exactly as you see it here, except maybe in color, is I'll probably have these character sheets included inside the book, and I'll print it for myself, and I'll just say that's good, and I can put it on my shelf and I can read it. I can say I wrote this for myself and for no one else. And honestly, that doesn't sound that bad.